Welcome.
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 Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome to Hello Malaysia. I'm Ann Edwards, and today is the 4th of July. Of course, Americans all over the world, including right here in Malaysia, celebrates the 4th of July as U.S. Independence Day. And what does this mean to our friends over in America? With me in the studio, His Excellency, U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia, Paul Jones. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Selamat petang. Delighted to be here, Anne.
Salam sejahtera and happy Independence Day to you.
Thank you so much. We're just delighted that July 4th is a great day for America, and we're happy to celebrate it here in Malaysia.
Would it be more appropriate to call it the 4th of July or U.S. Independence Day?
Either one. You know, we think of it as America's birthday.
And what does 4th of July mean to Americans?
I think it means a couple of things. One is it's a time where Americans come together as families and communities. You see this in small towns throughout America and celebrate in their own way. There's oftentimes a parade, there's a picnic and fireworks. You can see it in a big city like New York or Washington, D.C., or you can see in a small town like Jaffrey in New Hampshire, which is a member of my family lives there. And there they read in the town center the Declaration of Independence, sentence by sentence, a different person from the community reading it to remind us sort of how our country was founded.
And what does it mean to you, Your Excellency?
Well, I think it means, you know, one, as I say, it's a birthday celebration. So most of all, it's a lot of fun. It's a family day. People travel a lot July 4th to get together as families and communities. But as I say, it's a time where people sort of remind themselves of the values that our country was founded on. And one of the most famous lines in the English language that we hold these troops, that you know, the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's sort of a general thing that people remember, is the foundation of when the United States declared its independence from the United Kingdom and began its journey.
Must be special for you to celebrate it right here in Malaysia.
It sure is. And, you know, Malaysia, the United States, every country has its sort of founding moment. Malaysia's is more recent, but you know, similarly from a background, actually, we were both countries under the same colonial administration. But I think we, at these kinds of times, while we look at the way our countries were founded, we find we have a lot in common, that we believe in a lot of the same ways that people should be able to live in the world.
Right. So in 2009, New York City was notably, they had the largest fireworks display in the country, in the whole of the United States. Any sneak previews, perhaps you can tell us?
I'm not sure if they you know, New York is a pretty vibrant place, and they may well get that status again. I understand there's going to be about 5 or 6 barges in the river. What they do is they put these very large barges in the river and shoot fireworks off from the barges because it's safer than doing it from land. And it's astounding over about a period of 20 or 30 minutes, the number of fireworks in the air. And you also have great music festivals, and you know, people are outside, it's warm weather, it's summertime, and enjoying themselves.
How will you celebrate 4th of July right here in Malaysia?
Well, a couple of different ways. One, we'll have it's our national day, so we'll have our national representational event at a hotel where we'll bring together the government officials and partners that we work with on a diplomatic basis. And that'll be a lot of fun. We also will have our own community celebration for our American Embassy community, where you know, we'll just be in our T-shirts and shorts, and we'll have our you know, a picnic and some music and enjoy ourselves, and you know, just as we would back in our own communities.
So very laid back.
Very laid back, yeah.
But do you have also your formal, would I say, itinerary, like the national anthem being sung?
Well, certainly.
Like
At our National Day
speeches?
celebration,
Yeah.
there'll be the, we have a wonderful band coming in, a U.S. Army band that plays a lot of wonderful wonderful American tunes. We'll have the national anthems actually are going to be played by some Americans who are here with the Malaysian Philharmonic. And they are going to, a quintet is going to play both the Malaysian and the American national anthem. And it'll also be a lot of fun.
And I also understand that because it is the 4th of July, many politicians back in the United States, of course, will make it a point to make their public appearance. Yeah. For 2011, what would be the tone? Yeah.
Do you, like in Malaysia, there's a lot of talk about elections in the future.
Exactly.
But they don't actually start in, our elections are, we know when they're going to be. They're going to be November in 2012. It's still a little early. Politicians will be doing that, but I don't think at this stage it's really an indicator of who's going to be the candidate or anything like that at this stage. But for any local politician, it's a time to be out and be seen with your community at the local parade, at the events, the celebrations.
Yeah, and looking at the state of economy back in the United States, of course, 2011 would be much better than yesteryears, I would say, from 2008 onwards. Will there be any different momentum sort of celebrations for National Day this time around?
The United States is such a large and decentralized country that the tone of each celebration will be determined, as it always is, by the community that you're in. In Washington, D.C., it'll be big and grand. I used to ride my bicycle because it's a lot of traffic down to the celebration on the mall, and you've got to get there a couple hours in advance and bring your picnic down, and there's a great stage with wonderful music and the fireworks. That'll be the same. And, you get tens of thousands of people.
You get that every year.
Every year, and but in the small towns, it's different and smaller. The economy impacts it a little bit. Maybe people won't be driving as far. Gasoline prices are high. Maybe they won't be taking that trip to the faraway beach that they might normally, but doesn't impact the vibrancy of the day.
And of course, because it is the 4th of July and you are in Malaysia, is this the first time that you'll be celebrating
This is my
away
very
from
first America's birthday here in Malaysia.
Are you going to miss it back in the States?
Sorry?
Are you going to miss it back in the States?
Well, I will. As I say, I do love that moment in the small towns, especially in the United States. But it's exciting to be here, and as I say, while we're celebrating America's Independence Day, I think we're also celebrating a relationship between our two countries, and it's a moment to think about that, to think about what we have in common and what we can do for the future.
It's also on that note that my next question would be on the bilateral relations that Malaysia, of course, and the United States has shared and enjoyed for so long. What is your view on our relationship right now?
I think it's vibrant, it's growing. What I find most exciting is that the areas that we're focused on are areas that are very much focused on the future and on the young people and the youth. So when we work together on education or on trade, as we're doing now in a negotiation, or on science, as you could see during Prime Minister Najib's visit in New York, and we have a lot of programs going on in science collaboration, on technology, like the Deputy Prime Minister just in Washington, talking about biotechnology. As we work on these areas, those are future-oriented areas. Those are areas of growth. And so what I find exciting is the investment we're making today is going to grow as time goes on. So I think we have a lot of hope for the future.
In what area do you think that can be developed the most right now, given the state of the economy? And of course, right here in Asia, we are picking up, apart from some of the countries like Japan can't be helped because of the tsunami. So in what areas do you think that would be most potentially developed?
In what areas of our bilateral relationship? Well, I think what the Prime Minister has spoken of and what President Obama has spoken of is let's develop a comprehensive relationship where we're moving ahead on all fronts, so they reinforce each other. And the areas that I mentioned, I think, show a lot of promise. Both our countries are dealing with issues of education, where we both see that in order to advance our economies where we want them to be, we've got to strengthen our educational systems. And we've got a lot to learn from each other. And when our people connect, they're better prepared for a global world. So when we have, for example, the Americans who are here helping teach English in touch by Facebook with American schools back in the United States, and they introduce the Malaysian students to U.S. students back in the United States, to connections that multiply.
That is already ongoing, or it has started, is that right, over in the East Coast?
Yeah.
The exchange program.
Yeah.
You have teachers or graduates coming over here, right?
Yeah,
right?
what we did was about 5 or 6 years ago, we began with a relatively small program focused in partnership with the state of Terengganu, because there was an interest there with the state. One of my predecessors worked with the state government and said, well, if you're interested in some help with English teaching, there is a program where we can help bring Americans over here. These are American college graduates. They're not certified teachers. They're not in the classroom conducting English language instruction. They're assisting the teachers who are, and they're doing a lot of extracurricular activities, but they're native speakers. They've got huge enthusiasm. They're sort of like Peace Corps volunteers of the previous program. And so when the Prime Minister expressed this interest to President Obama about let's bring Americans to Malaysia to help with English teaching, we made the suggestion, how about if we were to expand this program? And I can tell you the Prime Minister has been very assertive in saying it should expand quickly. We're trying to keep up with the numbers that he's talking about, because very soon we're going to have a program here which is on par with the biggest programs we have anywhere in the world because of the interest of Malaysia.
Oh, and what program may that be?
Well, this is this English language. So the numbers that the Prime Minister said he wants 300 Americans here as soon as possible. And we said, well,
so far, how many are here?
We have 20 right this year in Terengganu.
Okay.
Next year, so this coming January, in 6 months, we plan to have 50 in 3 states.
By next year.
Yeah, so that's January 2012. That's actually in 6 months' time. Then in January 2013, we're targeting 100. Now in 14, we can go much higher, but that, these are people who are recruited very specifically. While they're a college graduate, they're just not any college graduate. They have to apply, qualify for a competitive program. We have recruiters across the United States, and it's a program that's growing more quickly in Malaysia than anywhere else.
How long is the duration of the program?
I'm sorry?
How long is the duration of the program?
So they're here through the entire school year, so January to November, which doesn't exactly fit with our school years in the United States. So they're actually taking almost 2 years out of their educational life. Many of them are between college and graduate school. But we find great enthusiasm for this program. We've got a lot of applicants, so we're able to choose the best.
Sure. Great stuff happening. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in a moment with His Excellency Paul Jones, U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia. Stay with us. Right, thanks for staying with us. We've been talking to His Excellency Paul Jones, who is U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia. Of course, we took it off by saying Happy 4th of July, U.S. Independence Day, and also on some of the bilateral ties that His Excellency has so kindly described, which are vibrant. And we moved on to the education program, which you say involves English and also extracurricular. What has been the outcome of that program so far, the one that is being done right now in Terengganu, right?
Well, I had the opportunity to visit several of the schools and see these American college graduates helping teach English in classrooms. And you can just feel, when you go into a classroom and you see the enthusiastic relationship.
These are rural areas, right?
It's rural, urban, it's a variety of different schools. It's up to the Malaysian side to choose the schools.
Okay.
Obviously, you want a school where the principal and the community want this. And once you have that, then it works. And because the students are incredibly enthusiastic. So, there's sports programs after school. There are all in English. And what one principal told us was she said, we what we do is our students are shy. You know, they're embarrassed to use their English in front of their teachers. They're afraid of making a mistake. So what we do is
most of the time.
We put them in a room. We all walk out and we put the American college graduate in there who's only a few years older than these students. And an hour later we come back in and everyone's talking and singing and having a great time in English. And now they've gotten over the embarrassment and they're practicing and having the confidence to speak well.
How did they do it?
With a lot of enthusiasm. They get training. It's not like we're just tossing. So the 50 that are going to come in January, they are already starting next weekend. They will have a weekend in Washington, D.C. where they'll begin to learn about Malaysia.
Also the Malay language?
We don't have a program to bring them up to proficiency once before they get here. But amazingly, some of the teachers, when they get here, become proficient quite quickly. They study it. We have one who is outstanding, who has very quickly, in a few months, become really quite proficient because they can practice in the community. So.
Apa khabar and selamat petang, like
exactly.
what you said just now.
But they go far beyond what I'm able to do.
Okay. So this program spells actually leaps and bounds, for Malaysia-US ties. Would you say also that this would be beneficial to the United States, and in what way?
Well, I think it's hugely beneficial because each one of these Americans goes back. These are students who are bright, energetic. They're going to be in positions, whether it's business or government or a civil society in the future, and they're always going to remember this formative experience. This is what the great gift that the Peace Corps gave the United States is. We have generations. We have members of Congress who served in foreign countries, and this is what they remember. And I think Malaysia is a terrific place for this because there is such a vibrant conversation here about issues that matter around the world. And coming to Malaysia and hearing what people are talking about and understanding the cultures here, I think is a great benefit to the United States.
So it's also like a cultural exchange.
It certainly is. And an exchange on how we all deal with the challenges we all face, which are, more and more the same because the world is getting so interconnected.
Right, and on that note, what are the other interesting and, of course, exciting exchanges that we're having between both countries?
Well, one area that I mentioned earlier briefly, but I find very interesting is our scientific communities and technology. Okay. President Obama and Secretary Clinton came up with an idea about a year ago. They said, why don't we take our very best scientists and we want to appoint them as envoys to countries overseas. They've appointed a very eminent American scientist named Dr. Rita Caldwell to be the science envoy to Malaysia. I've spoken with her on the phone. She's going to come later. She's going to come at the end of this month. She was the former director of our National Science Foundation, our most prestigious foundation for science. She's well renowned in a lot of different fields, and she's doing lots of work just on her own in connecting up interests in Malaysia with interests in the United States. So we're trying to go beyond government, and that science, a lot of it is designed to have practical implications in technology. And so when you get into areas like biotechnology, which is an area she'll be looking at, how do we link up our institutions so that we can develop quickly the kind of the kind of products that are going to appeal to in the future.
So this would be more business.
Well, it's research and its applications in technology, which is in the business area. But I think that has potential to bring a lot of investment to Malaysia, and
in the field of biotech, for example.
For example, but in another field, for example, Johns Hopkins University, one of the leading medical schools in the United States and the world, is setting up its very first teaching hospital and research center here in Malaysia, in Putrajaya, outside of Baltimore, which is where it's located. Right. And they're very excited because they don't have experience in what are the differences in diseases that Malaysia and this region confront. What are the treatments? How do they work here? And this kind of collaboration will yield, I think, a lot of benefits for both our countries.
So it's also researching on what Malaysia has, like you say, in terms of its...
The knowledge here among physicians, among the practical knowledge that people have here. There's areas of, in medicines, I was in Sarawak and went to the Sarawak center where they are cataloging all of the medicinal uses of plants that native people know and have been passed along to generation to generation. So they take samples, they bring them back to the laboratory. We have an American Fulbright program, a graduate student working there also alongside in Sarawak. And some of the largest American pharmaceutical companies have said, we're interested in this. You know, we want to see what you're learning and we want to work with you on developing medicines. They have some very interesting, they have one plant that has shown very positive clinical studies for a certain type of cancer treatment. So I think I think we have a lot of connections we can make between our countries. And as I said earlier, all of these connections will grow in the future.
Including bilateral trade.
That's right.
United States is still the 4th largest trading partner for Malaysia. Yeah. What is your view on the current status and in terms of development of that area, which is of course bilateral trade? What do you see happening here?
Well, first of all, as you say, we have a terrific trading relationship. We're the 4th largest trading partner. It's hard to speak about, to rank trading partners these days because a lot has to do with global supply chains. So while Malaysia exports more to China and more to Singapore than to the United States, the ultimate destination of many of those goods that Malaysia is exporting to those countries is the United States consumer market. So we're all, we're top trading partners, whether we're ranked sort of, where we're ranked in the top few. We think that can expand further for both our countries. And so we're engaged in a trading negotiation, a multilateral trading negotiation, which Malaysia joined last October, called the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
And TPP.
TPP, that's right. It's 9 countries, including Malaysia and the United States, who have gotten together and said, we think we can achieve what we call a 21st century trading relationship that goes beyond simply lowering the tariffs for goods, but looks at ways to facilitate business across countries, looks at regulation issues, looks at services, not just goods, looks at all the issues that businesses in our countries have, and says, how can we open this up? So there's a round, this is on a very intensive schedule, there's a round every month. Malaysia is very seriously engaged, as are the other 8 partners. And we're looking for, in November, at the APEX summit in Hawaii that President Obama will host, to sort of outline the broad areas of that agreement. We won't have it done by then, but we'll be able to explain sort of where we are. And we hope fairly soon after that to complete it and to get it through each of our, get it agreed by each of our governments.
Would you see this as a more effective platform rather than the free trade agreement or FTA that was going back and forth, between both countries?
So that was a bilateral free trade agreement. The United States, we're just finishing we're getting 3 bilateral free trade agreements through our Congress right now, Korea, Panama, and Colombia. We are hoping that they will pass our Congress sort of in July, August timeframe. At that point, our only priority will be this multilateral Trans-Pacific Partnership. So we're thinking that it's more effective to move to one that involves more countries. And Malaysia has very enthusiastically endorsed that idea. Now it's tough, it's a negotiation, we all have to come to a common agreement, but that's where our focus is now.
U.S. investment in Malaysia has reached over $300 million to date.
Oh, it's in the billions. Yes,
it's in the billions as well. In terms of attractiveness here, business environment, especially for Americans right here in Malaysia, what do you see is the strength right now? I come to the weakness shortly, but what do you see would be the strength of Malaysia's business environment?
Well, the United States is the #1 foreign investor in Malaysia, both last year and in total stocks, so the investments that are currently existing from foreign companies. And we're very proud of that, and I think it's a sign of the relationship between our countries. Much of that investment is in the areas of electronics. It's also in areas, so a number of manufacturing areas. We're also a big investor in oil and gas, partnering with Petronas to exploit oil fields and gas fields that Malaysia has with some of the high technology that American companies can bring. But it goes beyond that. So we have investments in solar power. So we have both first solar and
solar, yeah, that's
we
really
have
important.
very high technology solar panel manufacturing going on here in Malaysia with U.S. investment. So bringing to Malaysia sort of the high value jobs that that the government and the people are seeking.
Right.
We have a Coca-Cola plant being built here. Will soon be, Coca-Cola never used to be bottled here. It was brought in, and now we have a high-tech, state-of-the-art Coca-Cola plant going in. There's a lot of interest in Malaysia because Malaysia is very welcoming to foreign investment.
Are there any areas that we or the government of Malaysia could improve on, to make Malaysia more attractive to American investors?
Well, the area I'd like to improve on is having more Malaysians invest in the United States, because that's also a great opportunity. A couple of major
then. In what areas?
Well, a couple of Malaysia's major companies, Genting is investing very successfully in the United States,
as well.
And there are others. But as far as Malaysia's, so the United States has a lot of opportunities. I think sometimes companies in Malaysia say, "Oh, it's too big and complicated."
Such a huge market.
It's a huge market, and once when you invest in the United States, there's a lot of opportunity. It's such a huge market, as you say. As far as Malaysia goes, I'd like to see Malaysia attract more of the medium and small companies in the United States, that because they bring the entrepreneurship and the innovation and sort of the high technology, and for that, it requires a sort of our partnership at another level of explaining transparently sort of the rules of the road here in Malaysia. And the big companies from the United States, they have the resources to take a look at Malaysia and understand it. The smaller, medium-sized companies, it's harder for them to, they don't have the capacity to sort of look individually at Malaysia and every other country in the world. So that's why you have something like this Trans-Pacific Partnership. Because once we get through that, you have Malaysia as one of the top 9 countries in the world where we've all said we have the highest standard business environment among our countries. And then a smaller or medium-sized country says, "Oh, I'm going to look at Malaysia because it's one of the 9 that signed this agreement."
So more stuff coming to our shores.
I hope so.
Need to take a short break. Another one. We'll be right back with His Excellency Paul Jones, U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia, talking about, of course, the 4th of July and some of the bilateral ties that Malaysia and the U.S. has enjoyed thus far. Stay with us. Yes, thanks for staying with us on Helo Malaysia. We've been talking to a U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia, His Excellency, Mr. Paul Jones. Thank you, actually, for making time, to come over to our studio on such an, auspicious occasion, of course.
I'm delighted to be here on America's birthday, and thank you.
And it's, of course, your national day. You're not supposed to be working, are you?
We get a day off, but it's not really a day off. It's a day for celebration.
And you have the best of both worlds, actually. While you're here in Malaysia, you also close for our holidays. Is that right?
We're only allowed a certain number, so we have to ignore a few of the Malaysian holidays, or else our Congress would get upset with us because we'd be off all the time. But we enjoy this one as a community event.
Great. Okay. Now we've been talking about education, and of course we'd like to expand on that. We hear there's a very interesting program as well, youth exchange program. Would you like to tell us more?
Well, this is we try to do our exchanges and education in both directions. We have 50 Malaysian secondary school students have just come back from 6 months in high schools in the United States. So they've been out there.
All over the U.S.
All over the United States, yeah. They're individually in communities in high school living with an American family. I follow their experiences because they're all on Facebook, and they exchange
and His Excellency is also very active on Twitter.
Facebook, Twitter, Ambassador Jones.
Him. Yes.
But it's a lot of fun to see them. They post pictures. They tell about their first time seeing snow, their first experience at a high school football game, sort of American football game.
Who picked these lucky students?
It's a competitive program. We have a selection process and a board and an application, and we put out on Facebook as well as many other ways, the open invitation to any Malaysian student to apply.
So it's an open invitation.
Yes, it is, and there has to be a certain level of English language proficiency, obviously, to succeed. But we have a number of after-school English language programs in different parts of Malaysia to help people get to that level where they can apply to this program as well. But one of the real fun things we're doing this year, again, which was done a couple of years ago, is TV8 is putting together a reality TV show called Field Trip USA 2, because it's the second time it's being done. And their producer, interviewer, Chi, has been out traveling around with, by the way, the famous Malaysian singer and songwriter Yuna, stopping in and seeing some of these.
She is in the U.S.
She
right
is.
now,
That's right.
She's that's right.
And she has a new album coming out, and I follow her closely as well. She's been a great supporter of this program also. They've been visiting the students, interviewing them, filming them in real-life situations. In September, you'll be able to see on TV8 this series, and it was very popular the first time around, and we're looking forward to seeing it again.
So happy and sad moments?
A little bit of everything. Actually, it's just like reality TV. It shows everything.
They're homesick as well.
A little, yeah. There are some hello and goodbye scenes that are touching.
Or some don't want to come back.
I think there's a mix.
So this open invitation, how often does it appear?
Yeah, I think it's every year we put this out, and we do it for 6 months because our academic years don't quite line up. In many countries, we do it for an entire year, but we don't want to disrupt because our academic years don't line up too much. So we do a 6-month program, and
with students only. With students only.
Yeah, with students only for this program. Now, we have a number of other exchange programs that are run through our Malaysia America Cultural Education and Exchange Program, MACE. It's been around a long time. The Prime Minister, very familiar with it from his time as Education Minister. And so we have programs that support sort of English language teaching ability. So we have people going in both directions on English language teaching specialists coming here and doing seminars with teachers here. We have fellowship programs. We also have a handful of terrific Fulbright scholars here in Malaysia. So people at the undergraduate, oftentimes at the graduate level, doing research and teaching here in Malaysia associated with Malaysian universities. So we have people, specialists in, for example, Sean Foley, who's a specialist in Islamic history and theology, and he from the United States is here and working, learning a whole lot more, doing original research and doing speaking engagements, sort of from the American perspective. So I think there's a lot more going on than people often realize or appreciate between our countries.
So Field Trip US, okay?
Field Trip USA, that's right. And they're on Facebook, Field Trip USA.
Okay, so for people like me, where do I apply to actually go to the US, perhaps,
Yeah, I think you're a little beyond secondary school.
Beyond
sorry to say.
secondary,
But we'll be looking for, tell us when you want to go, and we'll see if we can line up some appointments.
No, I was just looking also at journalists, exchange programs with journalists as well. You have that as well.
Yeah, we do. We have a variety of they're hard to describe as a whole because we have sort of individual programs that we try to
as well.
That we try to link people up for. And I know you've studied in the United States. Is that right? Journalism.
That's right. Yeah. And honestly, it was so enjoyable. Good. It was more of a field trip, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we've gone from Youth Exchange Program, of course, Field Trip USA, and that would be in a DVD, and that will be coming out very soon.
Well, you'll see it on TV, and so it'll be shown, I think, every week for a series on TV8.
Right, and you also have a sports diplomacy program.
Yes, we're so excited.
Exciting for all those women out there. Sorry.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And there's a wonderful video that the 3 women soccer players, football players, I guess you'd call them here, who were selected for this program, 2 from Shah Alam, 1 from Negeri Sembilan. They went over on a program together with football players women football players from 6 other countries. And they all spent time in communities in the United States and with the women's National World Cup team. the American one, which is one of the world's tops. I mean, we're up there with Germany and Brazil vying for the championship each year, and we're hoping to get it this year. But it was a wonderful opportunity for these three women, and they're back now, and they're going around and speaking about their experiences, both for the 6 countries, the people from the 6 countries, and also from their experience with the United States.
How was this idea mooted in the first place?
Well,
who's the great?
Well, you may notice we have this woman named Hillary Clinton.
Rings a bell.
Oh, she is very focused, and she has a woman who works for her who was her chief of staff when she was First Lady, and now is her special representative for women's issues named Milan Verveer. We also have an office that is solely dedicated to sports diplomacy, and they all got together and said, let's bring some women from around the world and link them up with our female soccer players.
Right. And how long is this going to happen, this program?
Well, this is just the most recent. We will have other opportunities to send Malaysians to the United States. We just recently had, this was a private sector program, not one that we organized, but some former NBA greats came here and played. I went to this game. They played against the All-Stars, the former All-Stars of the Malaysian basketball league. So you had some folks out there who were, the LA Lakers top scorer in 1998 and still playing, and they had a great game, and we're looking for ways to sort of bring basketball to communities here and to help with that. And there are some wonderful people here in Malaysia working on that, and we're looking for ways to support them.
And we're getting a lot of news as well on the NBA every now and then. Of course,
yeah, well, it was an exciting final where the Dallas Mavericks, edged out the Miami Heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we've gone through all the interesting stuff. Now the more interesting stuff is, of course, political. Yeah, on the political front, how would you describe U.S. and Malaysia ties?
I think we have sort of direction from the top of both our countries that we want to bring our peoples closer together, and so that's the energy behind, or the impetus behind so many of these programs. So you have President Obama, Prime Minister Najib saying, our countries ought to be more closely linked together, and then we find a tremendous amount of enthusiasm when we undertake these programs. So I think you see a tremendous growth. I think there's a great deal to understand between our two countries, that we're on different sides of the planet, and so naturally people don't have a lot of experience with each other. And I think as we bring people together, we achieve what President Obama has said from his very first day that we want to achieve, which is mutual understanding, mutual respect, based on mutual interest. So we're looking at where both countries want to cooperate, and let's understand it at a deeper level and move forward based on mutual respect.
We'll take another short break.
Please.
We'll be right back on Helo Malaysia. Don't go away. U.S. Independence Day, of course, is also known the 4th of July in America, and celebrated, of course, very vibrantly right here in Malaysia. In the studio with us, also to share this great feeling, is His Excellency Paul Jones, U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia. We were on the topic of political ties, of course, between the U.S. and Malaysia. What are some of the thorny issues, perhaps, that we need to improve on, in order to move forward, Ambassador Jones?
Well, in the political ties, we're looking at a relationship now where we have had the U.S. Secretary of State, the U.S. Secretary of Defense visit Malaysia. They'd both never been here before. We've had the Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia go twice just this year to Washington, the Prime Minister 3 times as Prime Minister. Right. So our political ties are really quite excellent, and I think more energetic. We're in closer touch than we've ever been in certainly a long time, and I think it's a great benefit, and it shows that what Prime Minister Najib and President Obama wanted to have happen is working. It makes sense. People feel comfortable. Thorny issues, I don't think we have sort of thorny issues between our governments. I think we have thorny issues that we work on together. One that has come up, that has sort of captured some attention recently because we do an annual report on it, is trafficking in persons, and that's an area where that's a worldwide problem that we're working on together. And it's sometimes misunderstood what we talk about when we talk about trafficking in persons. People sometimes think, oh, that's illegal migration, or that's people
That's
running away as
usually
refugees.
The perception.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about is a subset of that. We're talking about people who are not only who are not choosing to be working as a laborer, not choosing to be working in a bar. They're forced to do so. So there's a subset of an organized criminal activity that doesn't just attract people to work for low wages, or people aren't moving just on their own volition to escape economic climate, but they are targeted, forced, passport taken, threatened. They're essentially enslaved, and that is, a more intense problem than the other problem. And we're focusing around the world on that issue. And with Malaysia, it takes, prosecution. It takes protection of the victims, because these people are victims. They're not breaking a law. They're being victimized. And so that's an area we work on together. But these challenges around the world grow. So when we say we're struggling with it, it's because the problem's getting bigger. And this is one, that comes to mind when you talk about thorny issues that we could collaborate on.
But in general, do you think Malaysians support most of what the United States does, in terms of its terrorist laws, for example, some of the measures that's being undertaken by the government?
Well, like every country, we have areas where we agree and areas where we disagree. But I don't see sort of any issues that prevent us from collaborating and cooperating. One of the things we're doing is trying to deepen our understanding of why we take positions, especially positions where we don't agree. So we're bringing in think tanks.
Like in Libya, for example.
Yeah, and I think for a long time, between our countries and between many countries, we sort of just stated our position and then walked away. And what President Obama has instructed us to do is let's go deeper and we understand where people are coming from and why. So we're very supportive of an effort that's going on now between ISIS, the think tank here, and it's called CSIS in Washington, where we're looking to bring leading Malaysian and Americans together to talk through, to understand better, not only the thorny issues, but where we can move our relationship forward.
Okay, moving on from thorny issues to the less thorny issues, but of course this would be regarding the Malaysian cabinet, our Prime Minister, for example. What do you think, or what the US think of our present Malaysian cabinet and our Prime Minister Najib?
Well, what I find, I've made it a point to seek to call on every member of the cabinet, and I'm almost there. It is a lot.
Okay.
You have a large cabinet. My goal is in my first year, and I think I'm going to succeed at this, to pay a call on each one and talk about our areas of cooperation and collaboration. What we find every time is that there are more, when we start talking about what we could be doing together, whether it's the Minister of Science and Technology here, or the Minister of Health, or Minister of Environment, when we start talking, we realize there's more we could do together that we'd both like to do. And so I'm delighted by the reception that I've received and the interest in the cabinet in finding really concrete ways to work together.
What is the future of the United States? We're talking about this on the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us an insight? Where will US be, say, a few years from now or 10 years from now? Yeah.
Well, one thing, when you ask that, it reminds me of a fact that I think isn't very well known. The United States is currently the youngest country among the G8, the group of 8 industrialized countries. In a few years' time, we'll be a younger country than China. So the United States, because of our immigration, we're a country of immigrants, and because of the sort of aging population in many countries around the world, the United States remains a youthful country, and we think of ourselves as a young country. I know that may sound funny for Malaysia, but I think what you'll see is the United States will remain strong and focused on education. 23 of the top 25 universities in the world are in the United States. Entrepreneurship, it's the foundation of our economy, is small business.
It's still growing there.
That is still growing, and that's what produces our jobs. So we lost a lot of jobs a couple of years ago. We've gained a large number back. We still have a high unemployment, but those new jobs mostly come from small business. And I think that's where you'll see the United States continuing to be very vibrant, and I think therefore sort of attractive as an economic partner and as a political partner because of the values that we share.
And your plans right here in Malaysia, we've just got a few more minutes before we wrap up. Your
Yeah.
plans in Malaysia, what else will you be doing?
Well, I just see myself as connecting people and ideas together. So I've traveled to almost every state in Malaysia. I have 2 left to get to on my first round.
Up north?
Up
right?
north, Perlis and Kedah, I still have to get to, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to travel as much as I possibly can, meet as many people, and I look for ways that we can connect our peoples together and continue to focus on the next generation, on the youth, on entrepreneurship, on areas where the relationship will pay dividends in the future.
Thank you so much, Excellency.
And it's been a delight.
And it's been so kind of you to come to our studio. Of course, this is
Thank you.
through your very tight schedule. And happy 4th of July.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, and to all of you who have been watching Helo Malaysia, we've been talking to His Excellency Paul Jones, who is U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia. And to all of us out there, let us cherish our freedom, more importantly, celebrate it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anne Edwards. We'll see you again.